Hey everyone, so welcome to Sociology 223. My name is Dr. Pachenko. You're more than welcome to call me Dr. P. That is how I'll refer to myself and sign emails and things like that throughout the course. And so what I wanted to do today was just give a really brief overview of our Canvas course shell and go over a little bit the different elements that you should be seeing when you log into your class. So we'll see our course homepage to kick us off, and most things are accessible directly from this course homepage or from the course navigation menu that's off to your left-hand side. We also have the global navigation menu, which is to the far left-hand column, and that is where you're going to access the ability to communicate with me using the inbox tool. So I'll talk more about that in a second, but let's take a look at our course homepage. So you'll see some donuts. This is for a reason. I'm going to come back to this actually when we start talking about one of our projects for the semester, which I absolutely love. It involves making a zine, which is like a mini self-produced magazine of sorts, about food and how food has traveled around the world in a whole variety of different ways. And so this is kind of an example of that using one of my loves, which is donuts. So we'll reference that further on throughout the course. I also have a little introduction to myself. That's my cat, Sid. He is my pride and joy. And I always feel like this photo makes him look like he's a little bit angry, but he really is the most lovable cat that ever has been. And he's a great buddy for me. Okay, so to communicate, I definitely recommend using Canvas conversations. The issue with email is that often student emails will go to our junk mail folder, and so I'll miss it, or our inboxes will go above capacity, which means that I then cannot respond to you, which is definitely problematic. So Canvas conversation bypasses all of that, and it's a perfect tool to use. I am notified via email when I do get messages, so no need to send it to both. I will see your Canvas conversations message. My policy is generally that I'll respond within 24 to 48 hours, Monday through Friday. I may very well get back to you much sooner than that, but please do recognize that I'm trying to strike a work-life balance, and that I won't always be on my computer. We also have some social media accounts for Miramar Sociology, and I try to post things on there that are related to sociology broadly speaking, to sociology on the Miramar campus, so like different course offerings that we have, for example, and then also just different events that are happening, what's going on in the Miramar community, resources that are available, anything along those lines. So I have specific accounts for Miramar SOCO in the platforms of Instagram and Twitter. And then we also have a social and behavioral sciences Facebook page as well. Then I have some pages. I've just kind of titled them helpful pages, and I hope that they're resources that you can make use of. So just very briefly, I'll show you an example here. So COVID-19 resources, we're still living, of course, amidst a pandemic. You all are champs for signing up for classes right now, and I'm super excited to be able to host our class, even if it's through, an online format. I think that we'll have a really awesome time with this, and it will allow us to explore this topic in a whole different way, right? I mean, this is really interesting for us to look at, through the lens of sociology, specifically with this kind of focus on globalization. So this is a list of resources. I've got things that are just kind of general resources. I've got things that are specific to Miramar and the SDCCD community. I've got things that are regarding internet, college or educational resources, food resources, housing and utility support, mental health and wellness, which is incredibly important at this current moment, parenting resources, and I'll keep adding to this as I hear of more things. Please, of course, feel free to share anything with me that you would like to have posted here. I think it's a great idea. I also want to briefly mention the related links page, which is something that I've been kind of putting together over years, and that I really encourage all of you to participate in. And in fact, you can get some extra credit for participating in this. Check out the syllabus for some more info on that. But for every topic or every chapter that we're going to cover, I've got a whole variety of different links to either news stories that I have heard when I used to drive to campus. I would listen to NPR on the way, and constantly there would be stories that would come up just on my drive in that day that would connect to one of the topics that we were discussing, or I'd be watching TV and lo and behold, here is a perfect example of globalization, maybe economic globalization in action. And you can see that in many of the cases, the students in the class had participated. So on quite a few of these, you will see some kind of note where I'm recognizing that one of the students sent in this link. That was them getting some extra credit and demonstrating that they were connecting the course material to just stuff in their everyday lives. That's really the idea here, is that this is just stuff that comes up. You don't have to go looking for it. You know, it's just stuff that happens as you're checking your social media, or as you're watching a movie, or as you're listening to a podcast. Anything like that is kind of perfect fodder for the related links area. So check that out. Then I just want to mention that I also have a list of on and off campus resources. I very strongly believe that we cannot be great students if we are not having access to food, to shelter, to a shower somewhere, right? You know, these are resources that are very, very important. And if you are experiencing any kind of issue with access to any of these things, I really don't want you to hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to connect you with any of the Miramar resources that exist, or even community resources that are out there. And we definitely have to recognize that things are even more extreme right now with the pandemic. And so I'm, definitely here to help support you in whatever way that I can. So if you do feel comfortable, please do feel free to reach out. Dean Cheryl Barnard, who is the head of student affairs, is also a fantastic resource. And she, will also be very, very happy to connect you with any of the resources, that the campus can provide at this current moment. I also wanted to mention that I'm the faculty advisor for a student organization called REACT, which is Researching Equity, Action, and Community for Transformation. And REACT works on a whole variety of different social justice issues. It started with students who were in one of my Sociology 101 classes, where we were talking about all of these significant problems, things like food and housing insecurity. And they said, why don't we do something about it? This is ultimately what we call public sociology. And they started really focusing on the food pantry, and it's now institutionalized on campus. Even though it's not open on a day-to-day basis at this moment, we do still have the farmers markets that are happening. There are still some food distribution, so I'll try to keep you all updated, on what's going on there. But that's a great example of an issue that students worked on and that now ends up serving a tremendous number of people across the campus. So let us know if you're at all interested in that. One of our branches as well is called the Urban Scholars Union. And we focus on specifically folks who are justice impacted or system impacted, which means impacted by the criminal justice system. I'm really passionate about this issue, and we are, trying to create a set of resources and kind of a network, right, a support network for anyone who is system impacted themselves or is interested in this issue at all. So please check this out. I'm also Safe Zone trained. I want to mention that. That means that my office, right, is a safe space, but also just any kind of communication with me. It's specifically for students who are LGBTQIA, but I also want anyone, to feel like you can come to me with things if you would like to discuss anything. Okay, so resources, again, check these out if you've got more to add. I would love to keep this list growing. I won't go through this whole page, but I do want to mention if at any time you would like some guidance, kind of technology-wise, online access-wise, check out this page, the online resources. I've got a whole set of links to things like downloading Adobe Reader and Adobe, what's it called, Scanner, whatever the scanning app is, things like that. And then also, of course, the help desk link. That is a number that we should all program into our phones because they can save us if we're ever having any kind of technical difficulty. I personally don't have access to your individual accounts. So if there is any sort of technical issue that arises, I will refer you to the Canvas help desk. And again, they're great. They generally can fix things while you're on the phone or on chat with them. Okay, announcements will show up here. Recent ones will also show up at the top of the course homepage. And you'll have one on the first day of class, for example. I will send you at least weekly announcements letting you know what the course schedule is for that particular week and what the assignments are, what the reading is, etc. To get the full overview of the course, definitely check out the course syllabus, and you will see that this is one of the assignments for this week is to read through the course syllabus. I do have a highlight section, so this is like commonly needed info, right? Things that kind of come up more frequently, but I do definitely recommend reading through the entire thing just so that you make sure you do understand, all of the, what should we call it, course expectations, right? And kind of get a feel for what the course will entail, things like what, assignments are, etc. So definitely check that out. You will see that we have textbooks for this course. They are each really interesting on their own and kind of combined. I think they do a really nice job of playing off of each other. So Globalization, the Transformation of Social Worlds is a textbook that's a reader, meaning that rather than being a traditional textbook, it's a whole bunch of excerpts from really famous pieces or really interesting pieces. And I really, really love that it just gives us these snippets. So that way we can get a much, much more holistic understanding of what the field of globalization studies within sociology actually looks like. Then we have some interesting kind of addendums to this with Fugitive Denim and Threadbare. Fugitive Denim is written by a journalist who wanted to understand the process of wearing a pair of jeans. Where do those jeans come from? Going all the way to the cotton, right, that's used to make them. Who ends up producing them? What are all of the different steps that go into putting on a pair of jeans in the morning? Threadbare is a graphic novel or a comic, whatever the word, graphic novel, right? Does that make sense? Is a really, really cool exploration of the intersection of the production of our clothing and how that is really, truly interconnected with trafficking. And I think does a really nice job of making us kind of rethink our consumption patterns. And be a bit more intentional. So there are books that are available used kind of all over the internet. You can certainly check our bookstore as well, but often I do find some more nicely priced items, across the internet. So definitely check that out. I do make a note of this in the first module as well, but I will have a PDF of the first chapter of Globalization available for our reading next week. Our course reading starts in week 2, but definitely get working on getting these so they can be sent to you, while we are in our first week. Okay, so that's the syllabus. Let's take a look now at the modules section. So every week I'll add a new module. And the module will have, for the most part, due dates within that week. As we start getting further into the semester, of course, we will have more longer term projects. We have two kind of main projects in the course, but we'll also have smaller assignments on a weekly basis. And every week I'll start off with an overview. So just a little bit of an introduction to whatever the topic is for that week. Then we'll have a table of contents, and this will let you know exactly what it is that you should be working on a weekly basis. And you will see that every single one of these items will have its own page as we go throughout the module. So the way that this works is you will click the next button every time that you complete something. So you'll see that your first assignment is to watch this video. So congratulations, everyone. You are getting stuff done, and that's awesome. So this will then be in here after I finished recording it for you to view. Then you'll move on to make sure to cover the syllabus. So here's that info that will always be housed in the syllabus tab in the course navigation menu, but that I also want to make sure you cover in week 1. Then I have a survey that I would like you all to take. You will see that this is an official assignment, so we'll tell you the points total up at the top and the due date, of course, as well. And with this, I want to just get to know you a little bit, have you tell me what things work for you in classrooms, what experience you have with sociology, etc. So this is something that you can complete within Canvas, and just make sure to scroll down and hit the submit button. Just a note, because Google Forms is not directly connected to Canvas, when you hit submit, it's just going to look blank again. But I promise you, if you hit submit, it will record your response and I will be able to see it. So don't worry about that. It will show up blank again. It's just because the system doesn't have a way, Canvas doesn't know how to recognize that it's been completed. But you're good to go once you've written in your answers and you've hit submit. Okay. Then the next step is an introductions discussion board. This is a way for us to get to know each other. I feel like it's so important. We're going to be having so many discussions throughout this course. We're going to talk about all sorts of different topics, about their personal connections to our lives. We're going to spend a lot of time together. And so with that in mind, I really do want us to take a little bit of time and write a bit about ourselves. You also can record a video if you prefer, and then interact with our classmates. So this one is a little bit interesting. Normally for discussion boards, I will have you post an initial response, and then a few days later, I'll have you have the due date for classmate responses, so responding to their initial post. It's wonderful if you can then respond to your classmates' responses to you, if that makes sense. So a third step, but it's often not an explicit component of the assignment. In this case, it is, because what we're going to be doing for our introductions, in addition to a little bit of, who are you, what's your name, what are your pronouns, what's your major, how long have you been in college for, etc. We're going to do 2 truths and a lie. And so I'm really excited about this because it'll be interesting to have you put your 2 truths and a lie out there and then have people guess, and then you'll be coming back in an official 3rd step and you're going to reveal which is the correct 2 truths and which is the correct lie. Does that make sense? Correct lie? Whatever is actually the lie of what you supposedly were presenting as a truth. So here will be the list of due dates. So you can see that the first part is going to be due on Thursday. Then you're going to respond to classmates. So after you post your own 2 truths and a lie, then you're going to respond and guess at your classmates what their particular lie is. And then you'll come back and by Sunday, you will have revealed what is the actual answer. In this case, what is the lie and which ones are the truths. Okay, I have built into that one component of your 2 truths and a lie should have to do with globalization. So globalization really affects us in so many different ways. So there can be lots of connections, whether direct or indirect. But just to give you a very quick example, maybe I have one of my statements, right, that I'm making, something like, I've gone ice diving in Canada, right? That's already introducing globalization because it's involving me traveling somewhere or having lived somewhere before, something like that. Perhaps your favorite food is something that is made in another country or that you experience somewhere else. Perhaps you lived in another country at one point. Perhaps your favorite piece of tech is XYZ, and guess what? That happens to be produced in China, for example. So you get the idea. It can be really, really broad ranging. It does not mean that you have to have some experience in another country by any means. It just means that we should start recognizing how all of these things that we participate in on a daily basis are in fact globalized. Okay, so then the next step is just a really, really quick response here. This shouldn't take too much time, but I think it will be really interesting to kind of set the stage for us and really frame a lot of our upcoming discussions about globalization. Before we start getting into definitions and getting really into what is globalization and what does this look like from a sociological perspective, I wanted to ask you all, just what comes to mind? So even just a single word, what comes to mind when you think of globalization? So we're going to use an answer garden for this. And so all you have to do is type your answer directly into this bar here and then click submit, and you'll see the responses populate. So it's really interesting, whatever kind of comes to mind for you, just type that in and submit, and then you'll immediately see it come up on the screen. If people start putting the same thing, the word will increase in size, and that lets us know that we've got more than one response. You can see if I hover over the word, it will tell me how many responses we've gotten for that specific one. Okay, the final component of your week 1 material, everyone, is to obtain the course textbooks. I already mentioned these, so I won't say too much more about them, but I do want to make sure that you do get the 3rd edition of Globalization, the Transformation of Social Worlds. As I mentioned up here, it is very different from the 1st and 2nd editions. I think it's something like 26 or 28 of the readings are brand new compared to the 2nd edition. So unfortunately, in this case, this is not one where it's interchangeable with previous editions. But again, it is available, pretty widely if you do a search online. Of course, let me know if any issues come up, but I'm hoping that won't be too much of an issue. All right, so continuing on with our tabs, we've got one more that I want to show you. And that is our class cafe. So this is really the only thing that you'll need to go into the discussions tab for, because all of the other discussions will be embedded into the weekly modules. But in the class cafe, this is really an open forum. It's a place for you to discuss anything that you would like, really. So perhaps you have a question about, is anyone else having an issue with the PDF opening, for the reading for this week? Something like that, right? Perfect thing to post in here. And then a classmate can say, oh no, I'm not having any kind of problem. Here's the PDF reader that I'm using. I highly recommend it. Something like that. Okay. Maybe it's a broader question about college. Hey, is anyone transferring to UCSD next year? Do you have any tips for me? That's great too. Anything that you feel like, the class community could help you with. Maybe you just have a comment and you want to get other people's feedback on it. Something like that is really what this platform is for. I will also respond in here, as it kind of makes sense, but I definitely encourage all of you to comment on each other's posts and support one another, just like you would in a face-to-face class, right? If someone raises their hand with a question, often we open it up to the entire class, and that's really what this is all about. Okay, so the final 2 tabs that you'll see here are the grades and Zoom. The Zoom tab is for instant access if you want to have a meeting for office hours, or think of it as like a, chatting over coffee, right? Something along those lines. I do have official times that are listed. It is, 10 to 11 on Monday and Wednesday, and 9:30 to 11 on Tuesday and Thursday as my kind of formal office hours. But I do request that you send me a message, again, using the inbox feature over here, Canvas Conversations, to let me know and say like, hey, Dr. Pete, I'd like to meet with you at 10 a.m. on Monday, right? Perfect. That way I know to be looking for you. I can make sure to deal with any technical issues if they arise, etc. But the way that you'll access that kind of office hour meeting is through this Zoom tab. It will take you to a page where it says open a new tab, and it will open up to the meeting where I will be waiting for you. So that is available for you. I also, definitely want to encourage you to, if you want to set up an appointment at a different time, that's totally fine. I will be more than happy if those times do not work for you, to figure out something that works. So please, don't hesitate to reach out. So that is the end of our course tour, everyone. This will keep growing, of course. I'll keep adding things to it. Every week we'll have a new module. I will let you know if different events come up or anything that, makes sense for our course in particular. And I really can't wait to work with you all in this format. I love this class. We only offer it once a year at Miramar, and it's really, really interesting. And I feel like this is such an important time to talk about this topic. So I'm really interested to hear all of your thoughts about this as a global pandemic, from this particular lens, looking at this from a sociological lens. So don't hesitate to reach out with questions as always, and I can't wait to meet all of you this week. Okay, I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.